It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
So, my friends, what would you do with $1.2 trillion? Well, that's what happened when they passed the infrastructure bill in Washington, the Senate and the House. A lot of concern about it. Where's the money going? What it's going to be doing? We're here doing this Schuylkill Chamber of Commerce TV series. I tell you, these shows are very informative. Bob, of course, Bob Carl is the Chief Executive, CEO, czar, president, whatever you want to call him at the Schuylkill Chamber. Bob, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, Sam. Every time I'm with you is a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day. Bob, this is we got two shows. We have one with Ed Mortimer, who is the Vice President of Transportation, and Laura Mannion, right?
Correct.
Now, just give us a little briefing on what we're going to be expecting today.
So the infrastructure legislation is a big deal. 10 years plus in the making. Basically almost 3 decades since we've had significant legislation that is going to advance infrastructure across the United States. And the importance here in Pennsylvania really comes down to Pennsylvania going in before this legislation is not budgetarily in good shape on infrastructure, on roads, bridges. We need more broadband. Clearly learned that in the pandemic, mass transportation, mass transit. You know, at the end of the day, this is important legislation. And while there was some controversy, we want people to understand what has happened and what it means for Pennsylvania, and then what it means for our general eastern region of Pennsylvania, including Schuylkill County and the Schuylkill Chamber of Commerce. So we've been really lucky that Ed Mortimer, the foremost expert in the U.S. Chamber, has engaged with us to both speak to our members and come on the show, because we want the public to know the importance of this legislation.
Yeah, well, we have it, and so we have to deal with it, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
and there's a lot of good things in it.
Yeah, well, that's good. All right, so we're going to get Ed on the program right now. My friends, we're talking about the infrastructure bill. It's been passed. It's $1.2 trillion. How does that bill affect you, and how does it affect the state of Pennsylvania? And that's what we're going to find out right now. Folks, we have Ed Mortimer, who is the Vice President of Transportation and Infrastructure for the United States Chamber of Commerce. Thanks for coming on the show.
Sam, good to be with you.
This is amazing, $1.2 trillion. I can't even imagine, that kind of money, okay? This infrastructure is passed, of course, by both houses, so we're living with it now, okay?
It's a law, yep.
All right, so the average person out there, we hear, we have both sides, propaganda for good, propaganda for bad. We have it now, okay? So what do we do with this infrastructure, and how does it affect that average person out there who's getting up every morning, going to work? How does it affect that person?
So this infrastructure bill is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to not just fix old infrastructure that was built 50 to 100 years ago, but to modernize it. And while $1.2 trillion sounds like a lot of money, when you look at our nation's infrastructure needs, the American Society of Civil Engineers say we have a $2.7 trillion deficit to not just fix old infrastructure, but to modernize it. So this bill in and of itself is not going to solve all of America's infrastructure problems, or Pennsylvania's, or Schuylkill County's. What it will do is provide over a 50% increase in highway funding for the state of Pennsylvania. What it will provide is we're addressing not just roads and bridges, but our water systems, our energy networks, rural broadband. For the first time, we have a federal vision for building modern infrastructure that's going to allow us to compete with China. Right now, China's spending double the amount of money the United States is spending on infrastructure. This bill is going to allow us to go from a brick and mortar economy, when we built this infrastructure 50 to 100 years ago, to an e-commerce environment. Up here in Schuylkill County, you see the distribution centers, you see the diversity of economic interest. We need to have an infrastructure that's going to allow this county, this state, and this country to continue to grow. This bill in and of itself isn't going to solve all those issues, but again, you have to have a national bill. Just like Dwight Eisenhower had the national vision for the interstate highway system, this is the new vision for building modern infrastructure in the 21st century.
A lot of people say a lot of things. The point is, how are we going to know? How is this going to be monitored? How is it not going to be politicized? I'm already beginning to see in some of the local papers, the politicization of, the senators and the congressmen who voted for, et cetera, saying that, this is going to be great. And I'm all for it, okay? Sure. How do we know it's going to really happen in different areas? How do we know it's not going to go in crazy areas where we're going to be doing away with fossil fuels, the coal industry, environmental programs? Because then you go to the real extreme left. We're concerned about that. How does the chamber look at that?
So those are legitimate concerns, but let me take a step back. We've been working on this infrastructure bill at the federal level for over 10 years. So the School County Chamber has been a member of this effort to get the local delegation to support it. So we worked with the Trump administration. We made a lot of progress. We now have this new administration and a new Congress that was able to get this bill done. Our job as business leaders is to work with elected officials to deliver on behalf of the business community and the American people. So while the politics don't always line up, there is nothing wrong with working with members of elected officials at all levels of government to solve a critical need. Infrastructure is kind of the circulatory system of our economy.
Yes.
We need modern infrastructure. We were able to get this bill accomplished, but again, Republicans and Democrats came together. That is what government's supposed to do.
So my question then is this, being involved in the U.S. Chamber, are you happy with this bill?
We are very happy with this bill. Is it a perfect bill? No.
Okay.
Were compromises made?
Yeah.
Yes. But this bill is going to allow our country to grow. It's going to provide long-term economic growth. And again, it's a once-in-a-generational opportunity to make the investments. And the reason I'm up here in Schuylkill County is to help this county understand the opportunities available and make sure they're part of the process to get the dollars to this county to allow this county continue to grow for 50 to 100 years to come.
And of course, it affects all the counties.
Absolutely.
Because we have Luzerne and Carbon and the different areas that we're in, okay? Will this bill, okay, everyone says, like, who has to pay for it? Sooner or later, we have to pay for its different things. I'm worried about inflation. I'm worried about tax increases, and we're going to see that happen pretty soon. And the inflation thing and tax increases, boy, we just getting hit pretty heavy.
Well, we at the U.S. Chamber have those same concerns as well. We're very concerned about inflation. We are fighting very hard against any tax increases that the Congress is trying to do. But we looked at this infrastructure bill as a bipartisan effort that these are investments that create economic returns for many years to come. So in our view, there's good government spending, which is spending on infrastructure that builds assets, that businesses, that citizens can benefit for many years to come. There's bad government spending, which is what the Build Back Better plan is. Yeah. So our view is this is actually going to be an anti-inflationary bill. We're going to create new jobs. We're going to create new small business opportunities based on the investments that are going to be made. There is no better time than as we're getting out of a pandemic. We're looking for that long-term economic growth to invest in our own country.
Will the government be saying, all right, look, we're giving you $100 million, and this is what we want you to do for it in Schuylkill County, Luzerne County, or will they come to us and say, look, you got $100 million, you know the needs of your county better than we do, okay? Will they approach it that way?
They are going to approach it in the way of they want the local community to come up with what are the projects that are going to make the difference. And the reason I'm up here today is this community has, through the chamber, wants to come together and make priorities of projects. As I mentioned, this is a once-in-a-generational opportunity. This county, if it takes advantage of this bill, can provide long-term economic benefits for many years to come. So the chamber is leading an effort here to bring the stakeholders, to bring the public officials together, to make priority projects, to make sure that the investments go to projects that are truly going to make a difference in the lives of the citizens here.
All right. So as we look at Schuylkill County or Luzerne County or Carbon County or different counties, each one of these counties have their needs, okay? Right. So what is the primary emphasis of the infrastructure bill? I mean, like if you said, look, what is the meat of this involved with?
So the biggest part of this bill is our roads and bridges part of the program. Almost 45% of the bill is based on roads and bridges. But there's other infrastructure, water, transit, rural broadband, energy, a diversity of energy sources. So a lot of these decisions are going to be made at the state level and at the local level. The federal government's providing some funding. They're also looking for shared responsibility. Everybody's going to have to pay for parts of this. So this isn't free federal dollars. But these are federal dollars with local decision-making to get these projects done.
When you say everyone's going to have to pay for this?
So there's going to be a state match. So the federal government provides 80% a lot of the funding for these projects.
Okay.
The state needs to come up with 20% of the funding.
So where do they get that money from?
So that's a decision that they're going to make in Harrisburg.
That could that result in increase in taxes in different areas?
Highly unlikely. Pennsylvania's been ahead of the curve in adjusting their fuel tax over the last several years in preparation of this bill. Again, we thought we were going to get this bill done during the Trump administration. So the state has been ready for this bill for some time. So a lot of the identified sources should be there to make sure that you're able to match these federal dollars that are coming in.
On the other side, what were some of the reasons why some congressmen and senators did not vote for this infrastructure? If you're saying to me that this is such a great thing, okay, and with all due respect to the senators, I don't think they're stupid, okay, in some areas they had to, I know there's probably a lot of objections to it, but what was the key issue that they would be voting against it?
I think there were a lot of politics involved in the sense that some Republicans felt that this was a Democrat bill, even though we got 40% of Senate Republicans, including the leader of the Republican Senate, to vote for the bill. We had 13 Republicans in the House vote for this bill. But we have forces that said, we don't want to get Biden to win. We don't want to show that this government can work. We in the business community, we work with both parties to achieve goals for the American people. Infrastructure is a core responsibility of government. It's the private sector that delivers it. But now is the time, in our view, to get it done, and we're glad that it was able to be accomplished.
I'm so happy you said that, because my friends, you know, when you talk about the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, right away some people think, oh, that's a conservative Republican organization, or it's a moderate. It's an organization that helps you, whether it's on either side, but you said you have a goal to obtain, and you go towards that goal. And sometimes I think some people look at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce as being only a political part of a political party. How do you address that when people say that to you?
So businesses look at issues that need to be addressed. We work with both parties to achieve goals that benefit the business community. And in our view, issues that benefit the business community benefit local communities. We're the job generators. Our members create jobs, right? So that creates a better quality of life for the community. So working with both sides, we're in a closely divided Congress, right? We have a 50-50 Senate. We have a slight majority for Democrats in the House. We have a Democrat president. We worked with the Congress previously when we had a Republican president and Republican Congress. We're going to work with those leaders to actually accomplish these goals to get it done.
Now, you get a lot of jobs, which is great. The problem is getting people to work those jobs, all right? And when you look at what's happening in the country in the last year or two, it's disgraceful, really, what's happening, all right? And how do we address Congress and let them know, look, if a person is capable of working, why are they working, and why are you paying them to stay home, all right? How does the chamber look at that?
So we see that as a serious concern and something we talk to Congress about all the time. We need to get back to incentivizing people to get to work. We need to make sure that we have a workforce and we give them the job skills. So we have an effort at the U.S. Chamber called America Works, where we're trying to cut down some of those barriers that have inhibited people to get in the workplace. Let's address those issues. Let's provide new job skills. This infrastructure bill, how exciting to wanting to build a modern infrastructure. But we have to give skills to the men and women to do them. They don't need to go to a 4-year school.
No.
Let's figure out what opportunities are available and get them these skills so they can build this new infrastructure.
When I look at the chamber, and I've learned a lot coming here doing the Schuylkill Chamber of Commerce series. In fact, we were supposed to start off, Bob and I were supposed to do 6 series, and we're over 2022. And it's been a very informative series, not only for Schuylkill County, but for other counties. How close does the United States Chamber of Commerce, will you be monitoring what's going on with this infrastructure?
We're going to monitor it very closely. Again, this was our top priority legislatively this year. Now we got it done. But again, if we don't invest properly, we don't make the type of projects available. And you know, Bob brought me up here because he wants to make sure this community gets those investments. And so we're going around the country talking to people, educating them on the benefits and the opportunities, and making sure that if these dollars go to waste, we're not going to get this opportunity for the next 20 years.
And that's where it comes, in fact, that Schuylkill County say, these are the needs we have. We
Correct.
need roads, we need bridges, we need, you're looking at rails, transit, and et cetera.
Yep.
All these different, we may not need an airport, but we may need different things that the counties are concerned. And that's where I think it's important for individual counties, and you coming to these places, I think is fantastic. People will ask you those questions, okay? Restly assured, I'm sure you're going to monitor this very closely, correct?
Absolutely. We have to take advantage of this opportunity. American business thrives on modern infrastructure. China is doubling the amount of investment in infrastructure that this country is doing. We need to get back to being the best. This bill is our best opportunity to get there.
Okay, so when does the party start? When do we start getting the money, and when do we start getting things done?
That's what I always get asked. So when you finish a bill like this, we have to have the agencies then implement it. So we're expecting to see funding flow in the springtime with the better weather and the construction season. And again, we're going to see this money spent over the next 8 years.
I really hope, Ed, that they do what you're saying they're going to do. I really hope it doesn't turn into a political thing, because I'm beginning to see that already with the press, with the liberal press, how they're beginning to slant, okay, and for their liberal friends or even their conservative friends. And that's not fair to the viewer out there. And I think the people are not stupid. I just hope it's going to be for the better of the public and not political use.
That's why we all need our voice in this debate. We cannot trust our elected leaders just to do the right thing. We need to hold their feet to the fire. And that's one of the reasons this chamber is working with their elected officials. They're going to hold their feet to the fire. They're listening to priorities and make sure they deliver on the projects that have been promised.
And it's a tough task, but I mean, I'm sure it'll work. Hey, thanks for coming on the show.
Great to be with you.
Very nice to have you up here. Bob brings a lot of interesting people here. I'm looking forward to next show with Laura, okay?
Awesome.
Vice President Transportation Infrastructure. They worked hard at it, and if it's done the way they say it's going to be done, it'll be great for the country. If it's done politically, we're screwed, okay? We're definitely screwed. And we've been that before. Don't let it happen. Don't let it happen. Keep these politicians on their feet. Make sure they do what they say they're going to do, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. Okay, we'll take a break right now. Well, thanks for staying with us, folks. You're watching the Sam Lesante Show. Remember, 24/7, SSPTV.com. I want to thank all of you for making us the #1 talk show in northeastern Pennsylvania. Yes, we're very proud of that. Over 100,000 people watching now the Sam Lesante Show from north of Harrisburg up to Scranton, Pennsylvania. We really appreciate that. Of course, it's the guests that make it happen. As you heard today, we are talking about the infrastructure bill. $1.2 trillion. Bob Carl, who is the president and CEO of Schuylkill Chamber of Commerce. Interesting information.
Absolutely. And, we have an opportunity of a lifetime here to do the right thing with this. But Ed spoke to our entire chamber about the importance of collaboration and partnership. The state delegation, PennDOT, NEPA, all these entities need to be involved, Schuylkill Municipal Authority. We have the opportunity to structure and go after this available money and use it for both Pennsylvania and the interests here regionally in the Schuylkill Chamber of Commerce area. And we're very blessed that we have the connection with the U.S. Chamber, and we work closely with them in advocacy and collaboration, and that Ed Mortimer was fortunate enough to be able to come here and talk to our members directly.
Now, staying in the same vein of the infrastructure bill, the next show we have is with Laura Mannion, right?
She's the Great Lakes Regional Manager for the U.S. Chamber.
And she'll be talking about what?
We're going to talk a little bit more follow-up on infrastructure, but then move into President Biden's effort to pass Build Back Better, which is different than infrastructure and which the chamber and the business community is in opposition to as it stands now because of our concerns of the negative impacts to the business and the nonprofit community, including taxes and all kinds of complications that we do not view in the best interests of the business community, especially in our current inflationary times.
Looking forward to that show. Folks, remember it's the Sam Lesante Show, SSPTV.com. Watch us anywhere in the world. I have my friends in China. Watch us on YouTube. We'll tell you this, that if you want any questions that you would like to ask to the Chamber, Schuylkill Chamber of Commerce, Sam at ssptv.com, my email. We'll see you next time.